mighty ADAC GT Masters. We are go. The car's found out. And he's given the squeeze. Look at this, side by side. Pulling out right in front. And really good close racing. Wonderful stuff. Welcome to the seaside. Welcome everybody to Circuit Zandvoort. We are getting ready for race 3 of the season for the ADAC GT Masters, this legendary series, a league of super sports cars on the road to DTM, gathering here in the Netherlands for the second round of the season. It was 6 weeks ago, the last time we gathered at Motorsports Motorsport Arena. Feels like a long time ago, and it was in race 1 that we saw Max Osten and Leon Köhler take a win in the first race of the season. It's gonna be a tough challenge for that in this race because Max Osten and Leon Köhler start from somewhere near the back of the grid due to mechanical issues in qualifying. We'll tell you more about that later as we look at the car that won the second race at Oschersleben, and that was in the hands of Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender, and that win took them to the top of the driver classifications, 10 points clear of Max Osten and Leon Köhler, with Finn Wiebelhaus and Janis Fitcher 17 points adrift of the championship lead. Elias Seppänen looking to become the first driver ever to successfully defend a title in the ADAC GT Masters, and he's going exactly the right way about it, qualifying the car on pole position for this race, the first of 2 races here at Circuit Zandvoort here this weekend. It's David Schumacher, the legendary Schumacher name, returning to the grid here in the GT Masters for Haupt Racing, who starts alongside on the grid, and Benjamin Heites for GRT Grasser, who qualified in 3rd place. But lots to play for, lots of headlines, a number of drivers falling foul of the stewards in qualifying. Jonas Greif is starting from 13th on the grid, and that's as a result of his teammate Simon Conner picking up 3 reprimands, which sees him with a 5-place grid demotion. Juliana Holzem was caught speeding under the full course yellow, so he and Sandro Holzem start from the pit lane. And of course the Holzem twins never actually got to race at Oschersleben due to an accident for Sandro Holzem in the qualifying session at the beginning of the weekend. Another car disqualified from qualifying was Alan Valente in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari, and that was due to a tyre infringement. They will be looking longingly across the pit lane at their teammates, because Jack Aitken has just won in a very similar car in the DTM race, which has just taken place, and that will feel like a bit of a tall order from 15th place on the grid. This legendary series continues on in its 18th season with a new format for 2024, featuring 4 rounds that are sprint rounds and 2 rounds that are endurance rounds. And as part of that, we go to Nürburgring, which will be in July for an endurance race and a shorter race, a 40-minute race and an 80-minute race. Then after that, the GT Masters return to Spa-Francorchamps for the first time in 9 years for the second of the endurance races. Again, that'll be a 40-minute race, but then an 80-minute race around Spa-Francorchamps. That will be spectacular, but at the moment, our focus is on Circuit Zandvoort here for the first of 2 races this weekend. A quick moment as the engines fire into life to introduce the man stood alongside me. Good afternoon, Chris Hartley.
Hello, Brian. Hello, everybody. Look at the clouds. Look up above. Look at the slightly dark tinge that we've got here, because there is a 50-50 chance of some showers between now and 4 o'clock. It's pretty windy here, as ever, at Zandvoort. We are just a stone's throw from the beach here and the North Sea, and it's always pretty windy anyway. And there are 1 or 2 spots of rain in and around the air, so it could be a little bit hairy this on the slick tyres. It's an unusual grid, a slightly mixed-up grid. Championship leaders Elias Seppänen Seppänen and Tom Callender. Elias, of course, championship winner last year with a different co-driver and a different team. But they're at the front of the grid, but the team second in the standings, Maxime Ooston and Leon Kohler, are, well, they were right at the back of the grid. Penalties for others have put them up a couple of places. But the BMW, the 54 BMW, didn't even get to go into qualifying this morning. They fired it up in the warm-up. The clutch went, it didn't work at all. They tried to bleed it, tried to work it out. They couldn't do anything with it, so they had to strip the whole clutch out, the whole gearbox out, and they never got to turn a wheel in anger. So those pairs should be ones to watch, although the BMWs have struggled around here a little bit. Maxime Ooston, though, of course, it's his home circuit. He's one of the Dutch drivers, and he'll be looking to charge through. But when I spoke to him this morning, he remained calm about it. He shrugged his shoulders and said sometimes these things happen.
They do indeed. Elias Seppänen starting on pole position, and David Schumacher alongside row 2. Benjamin Heites for GRT Grasser with Janis Fischer. He won a GT4 race here this time last year. Dennis Bulatov for Volkenhorst, the legendary name, starts alongside the only Pro-Am pairing of Alex Fack. Alex Schwarzer will be also sharing the driving duties. Mikael Kapfinger and Nico Hanske line up on row 4 of the grid, and on row 5, Gerhard Twereza, who is sitting in for Taylor, who's away this weekend, and Kwanda Mokoena alongside Gregory the Cyborg. Has Pablo Schiem for company on row 6, and on row 7 of the grid is Jonas Greif and Leon Kohler in that car for FK Performance Motorsport that we've just been talking about. On row 8 of the grid, Alan Valente and Juliana Holzem starting from the pit lane as already discussed. And I failed miserably to say Taylor Hagler there. That's who Gerhard Twereza is sitting in for. She has other duties elsewhere. So great to have Gerhard Twereza on the grid here, and he is sharing the car with JJ Bernhardt. So the cars on their formation lap here at the Circuit Zandvoort, a track that is 4.259 kilometers around. That equates to 2.646 miles with 14 turns, 10 to the right and 4 to the left. The mighty banking of Circuit Zandvoort, particularly turn 14. There you see it as they come out of 13 onto 14. 18 degrees of banking, allowing these cars and drivers to carry so much more speed onto the pit straight, creating overtaking opportunities into turn 1. So the cars now side by side. We have 60 minutes plus 1 lap of racing ahead of us. This is the ADAC GT Masters 2024 at Circuit Zandvoort. Waiting for those lights to go off. They do indeed go off, and we are racing, and it's Elias Seppänen. A great start into turn 1. David Schumacher very delicately treading into that Tarzan turn, and Benjamin Heites pouncing into the 2nd place. But now David Schumacher coming back on the inside of turn 2. The 2 cars running side by side. Janis Fischer in the background, waiting to jump if these 2 cars get together up onto the banking of turn 3. 19 degrees of banking. Each car taking a different line around, trying to find the quickest way out of turn 3 in towards turn 4. But what a start from Elias Seppänen. And I may remind you, he's carrying 20 kilos of success ballast as a result of his win at Oschersleben last time out, but already opening up quite a gap. Benjamin Heites into that 2nd place. David Schumacher looking a little bit slow out of the blocks. Yeah, and Seppänen will be really pleased about the great start from Benjamin Heites, because Schumacher was only, what was he, 24 thousandths of a second slower than him in qualifying this morning, so he probably felt he had a real fight on his hands. But Schumacher didn't get the best of starts there, and dropped immediately back down into 3rd place, and is now struggling to get back up the order, having dropped another place on the opening lap to 4th position. So not the ideal start for Schumacher, who, remember, led a race in the first weekend of the season until he had a brake issue right at the end of his stint, which forced them to retire. So they're looking to get back up the championship order as high as they can. Kwanda Mokoena has had a good start as well in that bright blue Mercedes. He was 11th on the grid. I was keeping an eye on him, and the African driver up into 7th place now, and that makes it 4 Mercedes in the top 7. They look pretty strong around this racetrack. We've got an investigation for an incident between Alex Fack and Michael Kapfinger, the number 4 and number 91 car. So clearly there's been an issue between them. We have two sets of identical twins for the very first time ever in GT Masters, the Kapfinger twins and the Holzem twins. But the Holzems, a lot of work to do, having started from the pit lane. You can see a lot of challenging for position as the cars circulate around for the next lap. You wonder what the graphics mean on the side of your screen. Well, all of the cars bar one are fighting for the overall championship, but there is a pro-am pairing, and that is car number 4 as we look at the 54 car making up ground. Leon Köhler, after that awful time where the clutch went before qualifying, finding a route past Jonas Greif. So the BMW moving forwards.
Yeah, up to 12th place now, and Alan Valente, the Ferrari, haven't been disqualified from qualifying for that technical tyre infringement. A nice move from him on Pablo Shams at Audi at the start of this lap as well to get himself from the back up to 14th place. Still a lot of work to be done though. The race leader, Zeppelin, was 2 seconds clear at the end of the first lap of the race, and he's just set the absolute best first sector and the absolute best second sector of this lap as well. So if anything, he's extending his advantage over Benjamin Haiti's Lamborghini. Benjamin is about half a second clear then of Janis Fitcher in the first of the chasing Mercedes. But here is the BMW of Leon Köhler. You're right on board with him now, and his next target is Teresa in that Lamborghini, the gold and black dresser running car. He's going to have to concede the position here because the BMW's got the inside line, and he just slots it up the inside on the way into Tarzan as they slow down from about 260 kilometers an hour to just 90k in second gear.
Leon Köhler, who spent most of his life driving Porsches in something very different here, but getting on very well with it indeed. Now, Alex Fack has been instructed to fall behind car number 91, Michael Kapfinger. So clearly, the stewards believe that he got past him in a way that he shouldn't have. The only problem is he's also got past Kwanda Mokoena. So Alex Fack is going to lose 2 places because he's going to have to let Kwanda Mokoena through, and also Michael Kapfinger. That's going to drop him back into 8th place. And in fact, he's done that now. You can see from the graphic, he's now down into 8th place, having been circulating in 6th. So that is a gift for Kwanda Mokoena, the young driver from South Africa. So rapid. And here's Leon Köhler once again, now on Nico Handke in the number 35 car. So Leon Köhler looking into the top 10. The BMW looking absolutely dialed in here at the Circuit Zandvoort. I should think that Max Osten will be shouting from the pit lane as he works his way forwards.
Yeah, BMW looking in good trim in the race. Of course, the one benefit of not doing qualifying, saved a bit in terms of tyres. 4 sets they have of Pirelli slick tyres to last 2 qualifyings and 2 races. A replay on board with Leon Köhler, the BMW. The gap opened up pretty nicely for him, and he didn't really require a second invitation. So that was the move that put him up ahead of Handke's Aston Martin and already up into the top 10. Benjamin Haiti's, though, in second place, has now started to pull away from the pack and catch the race leader. He just did the best lap of the race so far. It was only just about 3/4 of 1/10 of a second quicker than Zeppelin's Mercedes, but at least it's going in the right direction as we get some replays at the start, Brian.
So you can see that Elias Seppänen was well ahead of David Schumacher. He really did look very hesitant getting going, and by the time he had actually hit the accelerator, Seppänen had checked out, and suddenly the Lamborghini of Benjamin Haiti's was on the inside too. Great view of that from up above. So whether Schumacher was trying to get a jump, just failed, or whether he had an issue remains to be seen. This was the view from Janis Fitcher's perspective. He saw that Lamborghini come sailing up the inside. Benjamin Haiti's, what a great start from him, then giving Schumacher the squeeze. It was at this point that Schumacher tried to come back, but the gap in front of him was closing very rapidly. This is what it looked like as they headed up onto turn 3. The first place car disappearing into the distance, the Lamborghini squeezing through, and then Janis Fitcher there as well. So David Schumacher's day going from bad to worse in that point of the race. Janis Fitcher, great perspective there, and it just looked like David Schumacher was struggling to get the grip in the opening lap of the race.
Yeah, it was. Just seemed a bit tentative off the line, as you said, but still in the mix there in 4th place. Mercedes 3 of the top 4 positions at the moment. There's the race leader, Elias Seppänen, then who won the championship alongside Salman Vega last year. So that car makes its way through with a 2.4-second lead at the end of that lap. So although he was caught a little bit in the first sector, he was quicker for the rest of the lap, pulled his gap. Alan Valente still trying to come through. BMW versus BMW. Now the two FK Performance cars switched positions. So another place gain for Leon Kohler, and Gregory de Seiberg didn't make too hard work of that, did he? I thought he knows his teammates quicker. He comes through. Eduardo Costeng to get into that number 10 BMW for the second half of the stint, though. Is a rapid driver, the Filipino, so that's still going to be a contention for potential top 6, top 7 finish. But for now, the 54 car is the one on the charge, up to 9th place.
FK Performance, who are still celebrating after the Nürburgring 24 race last weekend. They got a first and a second place in the SP10 category, and it was Max Osten who won in the SP10 category. So congratulations to them in the very shortened Nürburgring 24-hour race. So challenges continuing throughout the pack. Car number 33, Jonas Greif, a driver who made his name last year in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. Currently in 13th place. He has Alan Valente in the Ferrari 296 for Emil Frey Racing, monstering him all the way. So 13th and 14th place. They're challenging for a point-paying position. And Jonas Greif, he had a difficult time this morning qualifying, ended up in the gravel trap, brought the qualifying to a premature end, and down there feeling the pressure as they head towards turn 1. If you're new to ADAC GT Masters, just to remind you, or to let you know, as the case may be, as we see the number 14 car just getting a little bit lively under braking going into turn 1 till the back end, just snaking slightly, flashing the lights, trying to distract the Jonas Greif car in front. Alan Valente going high on the banking, then cutting back low. You can see the back end skating around a fair bit. It really is a white knuckle ride around here. As I'm about to say, in ADAC GT Masters, there is a mandatory pit window. It opens 25 minutes into the race and it remains open for 10 minutes. During that pit window, every car is required to come in for a mandatory stop and driver change. And just to make life interesting, there is a minimum pit stop time depending on the FIA rating of the driver pairing. The minimum pit stop time for all the cars is 85 seconds, with the exception of car number 4, which is the only Pro-Am pairing in the race. They have a minimum pit stop time of 70 seconds from pit entry to pit exit. That's why their number has a little green graphic instead of blue. So they get a pit stop that is 15 seconds shorter once they come in for that mandatory stop and driver change. We continue to see Alan Valente doing all that he can to get past Jonas Greif, but that Lamborghini's got the legs in all the places where he needs it not to.
And I think the BMW's clutch has definitely been fixed, because Leon Kohler, having got through a bit of traffic to get where he is, up into 9th place in the number 54 BMW, set the fastest lap of the race last time around. He got the gap down from 1.7 seconds to 0.4 seconds now to his next target, which is that Porsche you were just talking about of Alex Fax. So he's already going to be on the case of that car in the battle for 8th place. We continue to watch Alan Valente try to find a way past Greif for that 13th spot. The Ferrari is definitely the quicker of the two cars. The Emil Frey Racing car, they can't quite find a way past yet. He's had a couple of lucks coming out of turn 1. Great to watch the cars as they rise up over the crest through turns 5 and 6, and then descend downhill through into turn 8. Then flashing his headlights now as you look back at him is Alan Valente. On boards on both of these cars. Valente second in the championship last year, a race winner with Ralph Aron. Has a little luck at the inside of the way to turn 9, but left-hander coming up, and that will not favour the Ferrari. He'll have to tuck back in behind the Lamborghini and wait for another chance, maybe at the next braking zone on the way into turn 11.
Yeah, it's not often you'll make a move stick on turn 9, so some fairly optimistic moves from Alan Valente, but all good. That's what we like to see. Heading in towards the chicane now, which is at turns 11 and 12, and then up to turn 13. He'll want to be as tucked up, as close as he possibly can to the car in front, and possibly pick up a slipstream get a move up onto turn 14, flat out along the pits, and potentially make a move into Tarzan, which is turn 1. There is Alex Fack. You can see his head darting around. He can see Leon Köhler coming for him. Köhler looks to the outside. These two drivers both have come from Porsche Carrera Cup Germany, and it's Leon Köhler who finds the move past the Porsche, the number 4 Fack Autotech Porsche. It's Fack versus FK Performance, but now Alex Fack fighting back. It's a drag race out of turn 3. The BMW just has more grunt, doesn't it? Around turn 4, up over the hill to turn 5, and job done. Another position for Leon Köhler.
You've got to get a good exit out of turn 3. It's a really steep uphill climb out of that banked hairpin, and you don't touch the brakes again until you get to turn 8. They're absolutely flat out on that up and down and up section up through turns 4, 5, 6 and 7, and real commitment. It looks so narrow when you walk around the track, and it's hard to believe they can stay flat out through there in these cars, which can do over 165 miles an hour, over 260 kilometres an hour. But he did, so made hard work of it, but Köhler managed to find his way through, and next he will set his sights on another Porsche, Michael Kapfinger, in the luminous yellow number 91 car. They were on the podium in the first weekend of the season at Oschersleben. One of them has run a bit wide, hence the dust, and that will kick up onto the circuit, make it a little bit slippy, a little bit dirty. You look back now from the BMW of Köhler, having got the place from Fack. Fack is actually staying with him, isn't he, in that Porsche now?
Yes, a very rapid driver, and Alex Fack, who was a winner at Silverstone in the Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup last year, so he is no slouch when it comes to driving one of these cars into turn 1. You can see perhaps having thoughts about maybe coming back. There is a battle further back. Nico Hanke, Gerhard Twereza, that is for 11th place. Great to have Gerhard Twereza here on the grid, sitting in for Taylor Hagler in the GRT Grasser Lamborghini. He's done 24 races in the GT Masters between 2012 and 2016. His best was a 4th place at the Red Bull Ring in 2014. So a little while ago, but it's great to have him back on the grid here at Zandvoort.
Looking back from the BMW of Leon Köhler, who still hasn't, having passed this Porsche a couple of laps ago, just hasn't been able to shake off Alex Fack. While they were battling each other for a few corners, he did allow Kapfinger in the number 91 Porsche to just edge away, so he's got himself about a second and a half up the road now. So that's the car in 7th place. The blue Mercedes of Wanda Bacaena in 6th place. The fastest lap of the race last time out now goes to the race leader, Elliot Seppänen, finished driver with 135.4, and on that lap he was 0.6 of a second quicker than Benjamin Highty, so the gap's out to almost 4 seconds now between the Mercedes and the Lamborghini, and then there's a 2-second gap back to Janis Fischer in the number 3 Mercedes. He's though got company. David Schumacher is now back within half a second of him in the battle for the final spot on the podium. 45 minutes still to go though.
In the what-ifs discussion, Elliot Seppänen will be thinking, you think this is quick? What if I wasn't carrying 20 kilograms of success ballast? Leon Köhler will be saying, what if we hadn't had a clutch problem this morning? There is Simon Conor Prim. Oh, I can't do that. I'd be flat on my back. That's very impressive, balancing there. Simon Conor Prim, he's going to be jumping in to replace Jonas Greif in the number 33 car. A very rapid driver. Not as rapid, I think, as Elliot Seppänen at the moment. Very quick. Look at that lead. Now up to 4.479 seconds over Benjamin Highty's. Janis Fischer in that solid 3rd place. I said already, he knows how to go around this place, does Janis Fischer. He won in GT4 last year at this very circuit. He loves it here. David Schumacher down in 4th place. A fairly subdued race for him. He's 6.8 seconds off the lead and about half a second behind Janis Fischer. We're looking to fight back from there. Then it's Denis Bulatov in 5th place ahead of Wanda Bacaena in 6th, Michael Kapfinger, and then Leon Köhler, the BMW that we have been watching ahead of Alex Fack. We're looking at Juliana Holzem and Pablo Schum. This is for 15th place, Audi versus Audi, and Holzem, who was in GT4, ADAC GT4 2 years ago, had a year off last year from racing, back this year with his twin brother, looking very useful indeed. To remind you, he started from the pit lane, so he's done a great job capping it chin up with the Engsler Pablo Schum car, the number 8. Next up the road will be Alan Valente.
Yeah, the Holcim twins looking to get their first finish of the year because they had a huge crash, didn't they, in qualifying at Oschersleben. Absolutely totally destroyed their Audi. Didn't get to take part in the second race of the weekend at all, and good to see them back and at least gaining a place there up into 15th position. Zeppelin 4.6 seconds clear now of Heighties, so he's well into his stride. Heighties has been caught a little bit by Janus Fitcher, who's been pressed on here by David Schumacher. Great shot here. You can see that bump there as they come up the hill. That's a little bit sketchy, and that's an Aston Martin of Nico Hanke going slowly and letting 2 or 3 cars come past. Hanke struggling here, coming out of turn 3. What sort of issue has he got? Because he's very slow on the exit to turn 3. Yeah, that fantastic spot as they come up the hill through turns 4, 5 and 6. That little bump in the middle. I spoke to the driver that's going to get into the number 19 Grasser Racing Lamborghini earlier on, JJ Bernhardt, and he said that is pretty sketchy when you go up there. You really are hanging on to it, but you have to stay brave and stay flat out. But I fear that Hanke, having lost those few places in the Aston Martin with an issue, might be headed for the pits, although he's sort of staying with them a little bit now. So did he just have a slip up? It doesn't look quite right, that car. He might have a slow puncture potentially. Yeah,
I think Nico Hanke, who's come from GT4 racing, and it might be that he's just finding his feet, because GT3 and altogether, see the sparks showering as the Emil Frey Ferrari went over the curbs. Yeah, I think moving up from GT4 to GT3, well, we'll find out now whether he needs to peel off into the pits, and it might, he's very low, yeah, maybe, no, he's staying out of turn 14, so I think maybe he's just getting to grips with this track. You were talking about turn 5, and I was talking to some Porsche drivers earlier in the weekend who said you have to be pretty brave to keep your foot flat on it over that blind crest. Some really didn't feel like they could do it. Alan Valente is still challenging Jonas Greif. When the pit window opens in a little over 6.5 minutes, we may well find, if he hasn't got past, the team might want to get the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari in early, try and do an undercut on the number 33 car.
Yeah, Hanke stayed out. He lost 3 seconds on that lap, and several positions, 3 positions as well. But, well, obviously trying to limp on with the car and carry on. Maybe just had a moment and lost all his momentum that we didn't see. But anyway, the Aston carries on for the time being. This is the sight that you've had for a while now. Alan Valente's Ferrari staring down the exhaust funnel of that number 33 Powell Motorsport Lamborghini, driven pretty widely at the moment, it has to be said, ahead of him for, what is this, 12th place by Jonas Greif. Greif has defended well, though, hasn't he? He's kept that Ferrari behind. There's no doubt about it. Valente is the quicker of the two, but he just cannot find a way past at the moment, and this is much to the frustration of the Swiss driver. So in his mirrors all over him is the Ferrari. But the longer this goes on, the harder it becomes for Alan Valente, because the driver ahead knows where the Ferrari is going to be a bit stronger, a bit quicker, and he's able to defend those positions better. He has a bit more knowledge of it, so it gets harder and harder as this goes on for Valente. All he can do is try and keep up the pressure, try and stay in the mirrors, try and distract the driver ahead into an unforced error somewhere.
The problem is that the Alan Valente car is not quick enough at the very point he needs it to be when he wants to make the move past. And so he's caught up there, has been for the whole race. We're 20 minutes into the race. I keep casting an eye up to the sky as Elias Seppänen extends his lead to nearly 5 seconds over Benjamin Heighties. It has got very dark and very cloudy. I don't wish to be a doom monger, but there has been a forecast of potential showers here this afternoon, and a lot of the teams will be looking up at the sky as well, because they might not want to bring the cars in when the pit window opens. If there's a potential, they're going to need to come in again for wet tyres. We're on board with David Schumacher, the driver we saw in DTM last year. Would dearly love to be back in DTM sometime soon, and we are on the road to DTM here in the ADAC GT Masters, because the driver who wins the Road to DTM Championship this year will get funding for potentially being in a DTM seat next year. That's a real incentive if ever there was one. We have several championships that the drivers are fighting for. There's the ADAC GT Masters champion in 2024. the Team Championship, there's the Silver Cup Championship for all the silver-rated drivers, there's the Pro-Am Championship, and there's the Road to DTM Championship, and that's the one they actually all want, and it's for all drivers in the Silver Cup or Pro-Am Cup who are under age 25 to potentially get into DTM next year. Leon Köhler now pushing forwards. It's Michael Kapfinger in 7th place, just ahead of him. Köhler really dialed in at the moment, pushing hard in the BMW. Only a matter of time maybe before he gets past the Porsche up into the banking of turn 3. He can already see Quando Mocoeno just ahead as well.
Yeah, very good damage limitation this. They would have started stone last time and missed qualifying. They got bumped up a couple of places up the grid with others having penalties and a disqualification from qualifying in the case of Alan Valente, and really good start to the race this for Leon Köhler, himself with some DTM experience, and he's quickly caught up to Kapfinger. Mocoeno, as you say, is not that far up the road, and he's bringing with him Alex Fack as well, the Porsche that he passed 5 or 6 minutes ago, who also looks rapid now and is getting into his stride. So it's going to be a great battle. It's going to be a 4-way battle for 7th place. The next BMW of de Seyberg ahead of Theresa in the Lamborghini, and still Alan Valente cannot find a way past Jonas Greif, and that's how close it gets, almost in touching distance of the red-hot exhaust as they go nose to tail into the next stage of the race. 37.5 minutes plus a lap to go. The drivers and teams starting to think about what they can do with the pit stop strategy now, because that's coming up fairly shortly.
Yeah, it's in the corners that Valente is able to close in on Jonas Greif, but then when they're under acceleration, Greif just is able to pull clear. There's Simon Connor Prim again. You get the feeling that he's going to be fairly soon in the seat of the number 33 car. He would be arguably to say the quicker of the two drivers, purely because of the fact he's had a lot more experience in GT3 racing than Jonas Greif has. Jonas Greif having come down the Porsche route, but Simon Connor Prim, we've seen him in GT4 racing originally, and then last year we saw him guesting at the Nürburgring in GT Masters. Finally, Alan Valente finds a route past into 12th place. He took his time. Now Nika Handke is going to be lining up on the number 33 car. I think that Simon Connor Prim will not be able to wait to get into the seat of that car. I was about to say he got a 3rd and a 7th place when he guested in the GT Masters last year at the Nürburgring in the wet.
So here's a replay of how it looked. Yeah, he just missed the apex. Then he got a little tap on the shoulder from the Ferrari, and then almost took his wing mirror out as well, as the Ferrari saw half a chance. He said, I'm not missing this. I'm sick of the sight of your rear wing. Finally, I want to get past you. So Valente eventually finds his way up into 12th place. It's all starting to bunch up, you know, in that battle for 3rd place between Fitcher and Schumacher. There's just 0.2 of a second between, or 0.3 of a second between the pair of them. Schumacher, off the back of 2 consecutive seasons with Team Winward and Mercedes in DTM, multiple points finisher, very good Formula 3 racer as well before he came to GTs, with a race win at the Red Bull Ring, son of 6-time Grand Prix winner Ralf Schumacher. And here's that battle that's still going on between the BMW of de Seyberg, the grandson of an ex-Formula 1 racer, and Theresa on his debut this season for 10th place this battle.
You saw it, I saw it, rain on the camera lens. Yes, the Doommongers may have been right. It started to rain here at Circuit Zandvoort. Now, all the plans that the teams had for the mandatory pit stop and driver change may well be put on hold. Pit window will be opening in 10 seconds from now. Suddenly, everything could be thrown up into the air. Elias Seppänen, I reckon, will want to stay out late in the window anyway. He's the more experienced of the two. His co-driver, Tom Callender, out of Formula 4 into GT Masters, which is a massive step as we look at Denis Bulatov making a move past David Schumacher. That is for 4th place. So Tom Callender will be taking over from Elias Seppänen, who is the lead car in this race. Doesn't have anywhere near as much experience as Elias. Of course, Elias being the defending champion. Tom Callender having come from Formula 4. So I reckon they'll want to keep Seppänen in the seat for at least another 9.5 minutes. But but it's already been declared a wet race. Gregory de Cyborg make that with Gerhard Tweresa behind him in 11th place. Let's go back and rehearse that one. Challenging hard, also Alan Valente there in 12th. So this is the fight for 10th place with Gregory de Cyborg at the front.
Yeah, Alan Valente absolutely flying after this pair, having been finally released to that Lamborghini. So the Ferrari's going to try and make the most of his last few minutes in the seat now. But pit stops opening up, and Leon Kohler is coming in. A really good stint for him, up into the middle of the pack from the back of the pack. So from 8th place he comes in. He'll hand over to the home hero, the Dutch driver, the very tall Max Osten. Saw him playing paddleboard earlier. That was how he was getting ready for the race. And the very chilled out, very tall Dutch driver now strapped into that BMW. We know he's a mighty driver. Remember, the pair of them second in the championship coming into today. And also in is the number 19 Grasser Racing Team car. Talk about a big step up from karting to GT3s for the driver that's getting on board, the young German JJ Bernhardt. That is a hell of a step up, isn't it, from karting and 125cc engines up to 580 brake horsepower GT3 car.
God, rather him than me, mate. That is a terrifying step. You've also seen Jonas Greifen. He's handing it over to Simon Conor Prim. At the risk of repeating myself, keep an eye on car 4. I suggest that Alex Fack will stay out to the absolute last minute in the pit window, but that car will be in the pits for 15 seconds less than those cars around him. And with the timing screens as they are now, that will project him, if things stay as they are, somewhere near the lead. But the big spanner in the works, wet track. Those are two words that you don't want to see, particularly if you've just come from karting, which is the case for JJ Bernhardt, coming from go-karting into a GT3 in the wet at Zandvoort. Yeah, I'd rather not.
Yeah, he said, when I spoke to him earlier, I absolutely don't want it to rain, because he missed a lot of yesterday's session with an issue with the car as well. So he said, I've barely driven. He didn't qualify the car this morning. He said, I haven't driven it at all in the wet. I've never been to Zandvoort in anything. So, yeah, welcome to the race. Welcome to the championship. This is going to keep you on your toes and on cold tyres and on a track which has been declared wet, but it's not properly wet yet. It's just declared wet, so they have the option to go on the wet Pirelli tyre if they want to. I'm not sure it's going to be wet enough for that as yet.
Well, Bernhardt's day is about to go from bad to worse, because you can see from your graphic a red P, and that means that he has gone below the minimum pit stop time. The stewards will investigate that, and if they believe that to be the case, he will receive a penalty, probably a visit to the penalty box. Quando Mocoeno slams the door shut, climbing on board the number 5 car, Max Rice, the driver with the app. Always worth checking out the MR28 app. Download it from your store, because all the details about this driver, his profile, about the championship, about the tracks he's racing on, it's a wonderful resource. This young driver who's also come from Formula 4, one of the real talents, up-and-coming talents in motorsport. Having taken over from Quando Mocoeno, the blue Mercedes fires into life, keeping to the speed limit. He'll want to hit the pit exit line when the clock strikes 0.
And just coming into turn 1, he's Max Osten in the number 54 BMW. So Max is going to be Maxime Osten is going to be the leading pit stopper. That's jumped him ahead of the Mercedes now. The Mercedes has still got to get out of the pits and get up to speed. So this is looking even better for the early pit stoppers, as long as they're going to come in again and change to wet tyres, because it's going to put him up at least into 7th place. JJ Bernhardt having a little trip into the gravel trap there, showing just how tricky it is to try and control all that horsepower with next to no grip as it stands.
Your graphic is saying our leader is Tom Callender. As far as I'm aware, the leader is still Elias Seppänen. They haven't been in for their pit stop yet. So it's Elias Seppänen leading the way at the moment as Eduardo Cosseteng takes over from Gregory de Cyborg. A great job from de Cyborg in the FK Performance BMW. The outgoing driver helps the incoming driver to get in, get buckled up, get everything together. There's no massive hurry because they've got that 85 seconds, but they want to be at the white line of the pit exit when the clock strikes 0. A black and orange flag, the meatball flag, has been shown to car 33. That's Simon Conor Prim. So it might be that there is some trailing bodywork or something on that car, but the car is going to be requested to come back into the pits, potentially to have some work done on it.
It's almost always one of two things when you get a black and orange flag. Either, as you say, some bodywork hanging off and it feels dangerous, and if it comes detached, it could cause an issue for other drivers, or fluid coming from the car, which could be oil, could be water, could be coolant. So it's usually one of those two things. You can see those specks of rain on the windscreen. The problem is, when you're going at these speeds, 260 kilometres an hour, a little bit of rain in the air looks horrific, doesn't it? Because you're going so quickly through the air, it looks like it's properly raining, but it isn't really as it stands, and it's certainly not wet enough to put the wet tyres on yet. Right, Schumacher gets out of the car and replaces his seat with the seat of his co-driver. They have the seats completely shaped to them. Some of the drivers are different heights as well. It's certainly the case if you race with Maxime Osten, who's about 17 foot tall, and Schumacher is able to help strap his co-driver in. So Vega, champion last year with Elias Seppinen, gets in, and he's going to be one to watch in that car as well. Schumacher, though, having slipped from second to fourth, and it was Dennis Bolotov that passed him a few laps ago. And Dennis now hands over to the very rapid Mike David Ortman, GT4 champion.
We've had no notification of any issues with the pit stop for car 19, despite that red P, but they may still be looking at that. This is why they're waiting around. In DTM, it's in and out as quick as you can, but here, you gotta wait. You can't slow down in the pit lane. You can't just come to a stop at the white line and hit the accelerator when the clock strikes zero. You've got to keep a consistent speed. You can't block any other cars. Out of the pit box goes Salman Ovega, one of three brothers who race in GT racing. The youngest, Salman Ovega, a champion potential driver and a defending champion in the GT Masters. In front of him, Mike David Ortman, who's taken over from Dennis Bolotov in the Aston Martin, the number 34 car prepared by BCMC and Vulcan Horse Motorsport. They rejoin, and Simon Conoprim getting his elbows out. He still hasn't come in, as far as I'm aware, because of the black and orange flag that he's received.
So it's not been... He now goes into turn 7. So when it all pans out, that 54 BMW, I reckon he's going to be in the top 4, top 5, maybe pushing for a podium once others make their pit stop. So that'd be a heck of a result if they get that FK Performance BMW onto the podium after the start of the day they had.
Max has got a lot of people here this weekend as guests, as the only Dutch driver in the race. Right, Alex Fack in. To remind you, he has to be stationary for 15 seconds less. He hands over to Alex Schwarzer, but they're going to rejoin. 8th place is what it's saying on the grid and the graphic at the moment. We'll see where he comes out, but the car number 4 fires into life, rejoins the race. So there's Janus Fitcher, who'll be has handed over to Finn Wiebelhaus in the Haupt Racing number 3 car. So keeping to the speed limit to the pit exit. It's now the only bronze-rated driver in the race, Alex Schwarzer from Germany in the Pro-Am category.
It looks like Benjamin Heites has come into the pits as well, so he's just peeled off into the pits. It costs you about a lap when you come and make your pit stop, and the race-leading car is in as well. So the top 2 in at the same time towards the end of the pit window with just a minute to go. Elias Seppinen then hands over to Tom Callender, and a drive-through penalty, I'm afraid, is coming the way of the Grasser Racing Lamborghini car number 19. So JJ Bernhardt will have to come into the pits for a second time.
Yeah, and that's a hard penalty, that is. He's gone a long way over the pit window time. We've got another one as well that has been flagged up, and that is Janus Fitcher in car number 3, who's handed over to Finn Wiebelhaus. So car number 3 also been flagged for the minimum pit stop time. We ignore the Simon Conoprim one because I believe he's come in to serve that black and orange flag. There is the car that was in the lead of the race, now with Tom Callender at the wheel. The clock is ticking down. I think that we're all good on that. They're just waiting to go. It says plus 60 on the graphic, but I think that is just a glitch. So he fires the car into life, keeping to the speed limit. You can see all those around him have pitted as well. Out of the pit lane, in the background, there is Simon... No, it's not Simon Conoprim, it's the other one, isn't
Alex
it?
Schwarzer, because they had a shorter pit stop, didn't they? So that's the leading pit stopper of the white Porsche, just about to come into turn 1. So that's going to be second, yeah, just about second. He gets ahead of the Lamborghini, but Schwarzer, as the Pro-Am driver, isn't going to be as quick as those around him. So up to second with that shorter pit stop for the Pro-Am pairing. But He's going to have that Lamborghini coming after him pretty shortly, and Mike David Ortman as well up there in the mix for a podium fight now, just ahead of Salman Vega and Max Osten, who's going to be up there in the top 5 as well once it all settles down.
Yeah, it was Tim Zimmerman in the Lamborghini who's taken over the number 63 car behind. Right, car 3 has received a penalty lap. So that is Finn Wiebelhaus. That's a bit of a disaster because of the pit stop time. So he will have to visit the penalty box. It's a square that's painted on the track on the exit of turn 11 and turn 12. It's 200 meters long. He'll have to pass through that at no more than 50 kilometers an hour. Also under investigation is Alexander Schwarzer, and that is for potentially speeding in the pit lane. So they're going to be looking at that. And in fact, the penalty has been issued. He too will need to visit the penalty box. So 2 cars having to visit the white penalty box, which we should see there. Into the penalty box they come, keeping to the absolute maximum of 50 kilometers an hour, then rejoins. Has the effect of adding about 5 seconds onto the lap time. So it is still Tom Callender who is in the lead of this race once the pit stop's all done and dusted. Alex Schwarzer was up into 4th in 2nd place in car number 4, but the visit to the penalty box is going to harm that dramatically. Now a challenge into turn 1, and that is Max Osten. So Max Osten continuing his charge through the field, having taken over from Leon Köhler. Ahead of him is Salman Vega, defending champion, the other of the defending champions in ADAC GT Masters.
They're not quite as high up as I thought they'd come out of that pit. So 7th place though, gained a place, but crucially a lot closer to the 2-3 cars ahead of them as they were. So that FK Performance BMW number 54 now with Max Osten behind the wheel of it, the former BMW M2 Cup champion, looking very rapid onto the case of Vega, and in this battle for 6th position. Can't find a way through here. There's no way through at this point of the circuit through turns 8, 9 and 10, but at the end of the lap and at the start of the next, that'll be his best chance on the way into the first corner. So a 4-second advantage for the number 1 car of Tom Callender, the Mercedes, driven at the start by Elias Zeppelin. Schwarzer in the Porsche has got to give away basically 5 seconds when he goes through the penalty box as well, which will probably put him either just in front of or just behind Tim Zimmerman in the number 63 Lamborghini. And then you got Mike David Ortman. That Aston Martin crew really did jump up the order, didn't they, through the pit stop. So up to 4th, and it's probably going to be up to 3rd very shortly.
Another car that has gone below the minimum pit stop time, car 14. Jean-Luc Deorio has taken over from Alan Valente. I don't think I've ever seen so many cars breaking the minimum pit stop time rule, but that's going to be another penalty lap, this time for car number 14. There is Alex Schwarzer in the 2nd place with Tim Zimmerman challenging hard in the number 63 GRT Grasser Lamborghini, going high on the banking of turn 3, getting a great exit. I think he's going to sail past with relative ease. He does that, so it's up into 2nd place for Tim Zimmerman. Mike David Ortman in the background as well will be closing in on Alexander Schwarzer.
I don't think Schwarzer served his penalty yet either. It's just that much more rapid driver of the Lamborghini. So he's going to lose another 5 seconds. That's going to straight away drop him behind Ortman and down into 4th place. So Schwarzer will tumble down the order pretty rapidly as that penalty knocks another 5 seconds off him. You're on board with him now. In fact, Mike David Ortman in the Aston Martin, can't see it from this picture, but he's going to be right behind him now as they go into turn 10. And if he doesn't pass him before the penalty box, he'll definitely get through him. And then potentially another 3 cars behind the Porsche are going to be right with him as well after he serves this run through the penalty box, which is on the exit to turn 12, which is just about to come up.
So hopefully we'll see that. Here we go, through the penalty box, hits the speed limiter. That's going to feel painful. You'll see all those other cars coming past as well, and Alex Fack will be in the pits, just probably looking from behind a pillow somewhere. He rejoins a little bit further back now, so he's lost, 3 places as a result of that. So penalty served. Tim Zimmermann up into second. Mike David Orman up into third. Then it's Finn Wiebelhaus, Salman Ovega, then Max Osten, and then Alexander Schwarzer. So that's really hurt them hard, back down into 7th place. So I think most of the penalties have been served. So now Alexander Schwarzer's day is about to go from bad to worse still, because he's under investigation for taking the penalty lap too late. So they're meant to take it within a lap of receiving it. So you can only cross the start-finish line once, and then you need to take it. Clearly that has not happened. So now the stewards are having another look. There may well be another penalty incoming for car number 4.
Yeah, I did wonder about that. It did feel like it was a bit late, but not too much to investigate. Either he did or he didn't, so they'll double check it just to be sure. But yeah, it might be another penalty coming the way of that white fat Porsche. So Callender leads in the number 1 Mercedes, 8.3 seconds clear of Zimmermann. So that gap has basically doubled, hasn't it, over that pit stop phase. The Ortmann now driven Aston Martin, which was 5th on the grid, 3rd row of the grid, got up ahead of Schumacher to 4th before the pit stops. That's come through into 3rd place now. Then it's Wiebelhaus, then it's Ovega, then it's Osten, all in quick succession. There's only 0.8 of a second covering these 3 cars that you now watch battling over 4th, 5th and 6th positions, about to come through into the banking, the 18-degree banking, taken at 200 kilometres an hour, absolutely flat out. And that is the view back to Max Osten, and Osten is coming here. He's going to have a look on the way into turn 1. Inside line covered. Right, I'll go on the outside then, he says. No way through there, but he might just be able to cut back on the exit if he can get the power down quickly enough. No chance, though. Ovega is not a champion for no reason. He saw what was coming, and he keeps the Mercedes just about ahead.
Max Osten, who we saw in ADAC GT4 last year. We saw him in the BMW M2 Cup the year before that. He knows nothing but how to win, and that's exactly what he does. Pushing forwards, he won the opening race of the season along with Leon Köhler, challenging hard the champion of last year in the GT Masters, Salman Ovega. The spits of rain still on the screen, but this is the fight for 5th position, and Max Osten in the mighty BMW. To remind you, that car started near the back of the grid after problems in quali this morning where the clutch fell apart and they weren't able to take part at all. But now challenging for 5th place soon, you get the feeling he's going to find a route past. At the front, Tom Callender leading the way, 8.7 seconds. Tim Zimmermann in 2nd place. Then Mike David Ortmann, who's taken over from Dennis Bulatov. Those are 2 drivers that were fighting each other for the GT4 championship last year. Mike David Ortmann is the outgoing ADAC GT4 Germany champion, and Dennis Bulatov came 2nd in that championship. Their teammates this year in the GT Masters. Finn Wiebelhaus, car number 3, who will have had that penalty lap, who's taken over from Janis Fitcher in 4th place. Right, out towards turn 1, the Tarzan turn. Max Osten just a little bit too far back for any dive bomb manoeuvres around turn 1 into turn 2. And it looks like Salman Ovega hasn't covered off at the moment. So around turn 2, up onto the 19 degrees of turn 3 they will come, taking similar high lines. Car 4 receives that penalty lap once again for taking the original penalty lap too late. There's a lesson there, isn't it? So 7th place is going to become something like about 9th or 10th place once he's done that. We're on board with the FAC Autotech car with Alexander Schwarzer at the wheel. Expect him to see him take the penalty lap a little quicker this time around.
Yeah, don't ever make the same mistake twice, that's for sure. So that's going to drop down the order further. By my quick maths, with 2 wins and a 2nd out of 3, if it stays like this, Callender and Zeppelin will move on to 76 points in the championship lead in the number 1 car. 2nd in the points on 51, but that's 25 points back now for Osten and Köhler, but it has been a great recovery from them from where they started the race. 3rd on 47 points, Wiebelhaus and Fitcher, so they'll only be 4 points behind, so they've really closed the gap now. And then up from 7th to 4th in the championship, I reckon, will be Heitz and Zimmermann, who currently running 2nd place in that Lamborghini. There you go, he served it quicker this time through the penalty box for Alex Schwarzer, and back into the race he goes, but 10 seconds lost. Imagine how long it takes to try and get 10 seconds back on the racetrack.
Well, he had 15 seconds shorter pit stop. He's kind of given that away pretty well, most of it anyway. I think anybody who survived a penalty in this race is probably in with a good shot at a podium, to be quite honest. So Tom Callender leading the way. The driver, I remind you, this time last year, he was racing in Formula 4. This is something altogether different. Now leading the race, leading the championship with Elias Seppänen in a car that is carrying an extra 20 kilos of success ballast. Finn Wiebelhaus and Janis Fitcher are carrying an extra 10 kilos. And the Catfinger twins are carrying an extra 5 kilos. That's as a result of finishing first, second, and third in the last race. Whoever finishes first, second, and third in this race will be carrying the success penalty tomorrow for race 2 of the weekend. And if things stay as they are for car number 1, Tom Callender and Elias Seppänen don't need to do anything with a success ballast because they'll be carrying 20 kilos again. But there is still 13 3/4 minutes plus the obligatory 1 lap between now and the checkered flag. They need to keep it on the track. The weather may yet have something to say about the result of this race, but at the moment, the number 1 Landgraf Motorsport Mercedes looking really solid as it crosses the line. Now, what is the gap? Well, there's enough time to nip out, get a cup of tea, come back again, because the gap was 10 seconds last time around as Sandro Holzem saying, come on, stand aside, I'm coming through. Eduardo Cozzolin feeling the Audi's front bumper on his rear bumper. Audi versus BMW. Fighting back though, Eduardo Cozzolin in his second year in the ADAC GT Masters, doing a great job holding off the relatively more experienced Sandro Holzem.
Yeah, good little battle going on there for 11th position, still valuable championship points. Cozzolin, son of multiple Asian Touring Car champion Jody Cozzolin, started his career in single-seaters in the British Formula 4 Championship a couple of years ago, but his second season now of the ADAC GT Masters Championship. For now, fends off the Audi, pulls away from him a bit, loses a bit of ground under braking on the way into turn 1, but just about hanging on to that 11th position. Sandro Holzem doing a good job, though, in the Audi to put the pressure on. So always great to see in GT racing, isn't it? 2 totally different types of car. Go side by side as the gap is left open. One takes the high line, one takes the low line. It looked like for a moment the Audi was going to get through there, but a bit more grip, a bit more traction for the BMW on that high line exit.
Wonderful thing about that turn 3 and the banking, it allows drivers to experiment with different lines through the corner, maybe going high, maybe going low, and then launching out towards turn 4. And it was great to see Sandro Holzem trying something different as he tries to relieve Eduardo Cozzolin of that 11th place. It hasn't worked this time, but again, having a little look out on this part of the circuit, not really an ideal spot to get past, but no one's told Sandro Holzem that. Having a look to the left and to the right, just trying to hassle Eduardo Cozzolin into making a mistake. He'll be flashing the lights. There you go, finger on the button, heading towards the chicane. It'll be a quick right and then a left. And now it'll be Holzem who'll want to get as close as he can to behind the BMW. He'll want to be tucked up behind the back bumper, but you get the feeling the BMW just has the straight line speed. Up into turn 14, onto the banking. This is the point where Holzem will be pushing his foot so hard it'll be almost going through the floor, but he's too far back once again. Along the pit straight they come at over 200 kilometers an hour, under heavy braking now into turn 1. And again, it's Cozzolin, he just pulls away on the straights.
Yeah, good effort though there from Sandro Holzem, who had a guest start in the DTM last year with Project 1, now defunct sadly, but had a teammate who was rather good, Marco Wittmann, a 2-time DTM champion, and he was quite impressive in terms of his speed and pace. You got back on board with Max Osten then. This battle for 5th place between him and Salvador Vega. He's been staring at the back of the Mercedes pretty much ever since he got in the car, flashing the headlights. That's a bit of a trick just to try and distract the driver ahead. The idea is they look in the mirrors and then they miss their braking point, but they're all wise to it, and there's no such dramas for the German Salvador Vega, who keeps the Dutch driver in the BMW behind him. They've definitely lost a bit of ground, haven't they, to Finn Wiebelhaus, who's kind of broken away from them now in that 4th position. Just about 10 minutes plus 1 lap to go, though. This is the view back from Vega to Osten. Osten trying to squeeze another few championship points out of this, and you can see the slipstream effect here as the BMW gets closer and closer, but once again Vega knows what's going to happen, so he keeps the inside line through Tarzan. The gap will open up, but I think he'll have the better line going into turn 2, and he'll just about keep the Mercedes ahead. I might have spoken too soon here, though, because Austin flings it down the inside. You're not supposed to be able to pass at turn 2. Nobody told Maxime through. He goes, that was a terrific move.
I asked him whether having so many guests and friends here watching as the local driver, whether it put pressure on him. No, he says, when I'm in the car, I am focused. I'm just a dumb racing driver, he said. I thought that was a bit harsh on yourself, but he is focused now. There's a car that's going slowly. Max Rice looked like he was slow in the number 5 car, but he's in 9th place. So was there an issue there for Max Rice? We're looking again at Max Austin making that move on Salmon Vega around turn 2. That was very impressive indeed. So the BMW up into 5th place. We've got less than 9 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this race. I believe that everybody who needs to serve a penalty has. So I think the order that we have on the screen is about right at the moment. It's Tom Callender, who for the last few laps has been lapping about 4/10 quicker than Tim Zimmerman. The gap between first and second, well, across the line, we'll find out in a bit, because there's going to be a bit of a gap between first and second. Tim Zimmerman, 12.891. So I think Tom Callender has got enough time to stop again and have a little break in the lead of this race in a really comfortable position. He and Elias second, and what a potent combination. Not Max Austin, that's the other one, isn't it? That's Eduardo Coseten and Sandra Holzem. Holzem finally finds a route past that BMW. We didn't see it happen. Out of turn 12, they come out towards turn 13. So Sandra Holzem in 11th place. Next up the road, Jean-Luc Deoria, but time is running out. So it might be 11th place as good as it's going to get for him.
Here's a bit of a worry. If you're Finn Fiebelhaus in 4th place, Maxime Austin just did an overtake in the BMW, and despite that, we're still 3/10 quicker than the Mercedes in 4th place. On this lap, we're really going to watch that gap come down, I reckon. Austin is not done yet. He's got to try and bridge a 1.9-second gap. He's still got 7.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go, and he's clearly got the bit between his teeth, and he's clearly got the pace to be able to charge on. So that BMW pushing on. You mentioned Tom Callender's nice big breathing space now in the lead of the race. The great thing about that, Brian, is that you don't have to push the tyres, the car, the engine, the gearbox at 100% anymore. You can just afford to let it breathe a bit and not put the car under any undue stress when you've got that sort of advantage at the head of the pack.
Yes, absolutely. You can just focus on doing what needs to be done. You're not looking in your mirrors. You're not worrying about anything. Of course, some drivers say that when they actually get to the stage of backing off, they lose concentration and end up in the gravel trap. But I'm sure Tom Callender is very wise to that. His step into GT3 racing has been so impressive. It is Tom Callender, Finn Fiebelhaus and Max Rice who have all come up from the ADAC Formula 4 team from last year, as we look now at a replay of Sandra Holzem getting past Eduardo Coseten. Coseten had a good old shot at trying to get back past him, didn't he? The two cars ran side by side, finally under braking. Holzem had the inside line and got that position nailed, but good job there from Sandra Holzem up into 11th place. But yes, the 3 Formula 4 drivers who have jumped from there into GT Masters, a great job, and that is the 35 car Chandler Hull. We've barely mentioned him. He took over from Nico Handke, but he is parked up at the side of the track. Drivers come all the way from the USA. Not entirely sure how he's managed to end up pointing in that direction, but now the car drifting across the track. He rejoins. It's out on turn 10, isn't it? He finally gets the thing back running, but I'm not entirely sure what happened there. A bit of a moment for the Lamborghini as it came past.
We saw the blue Mercedes of Max Rice look like it maybe had a bit of a moment. A slow exit was behind the Porsche of Alex Schwartz, so it's now got back ahead. So back up to 8th place for the number 5 Mercedes. So Max Austin was a 1/10.5 quicker through the first sector than Finn Fiebelhaus, but he was a bit slower than him through the second sector. And replay the Aston Martin just losing the back end there. Looked like he just lost traction as he had too much acceleration, fed in too quickly to the rear wheels and just oversteered into a half spin.
Yeah, that was up at turn 9. It was this moment here where it's drifting across the track, and the Lamborghini coming past with Simon Connor Prim at the wheel. The number 33 car, let's just point out, has been run by Paul Motorsport. Max Powell, who is in DTM, starting from pole position for tomorrow's race. The family business also in GT Masters. There'll be a lot of data that will be crossing between the GT Masters and the DTM crew as they look to learn as much as they can. Of course, great restrictions in testing in all GT3 racing. Yeah, Simon Connor Prim will be feeding lots of information back to Max Powell, who will be driving the Powell Motorsport car in the DTM tomorrow.
Absolutely right, and looking to get his second win in the DTM if he can from pole position. Well, the last 3 races in DTM have all been won from pole position, so he's got a chance, that's for sure. That threat of rain looks like it's passed. It's pretty dark at points of the circuit, but completely dry. It's never wet enough to put those wet tyres on. So now you've got the Ferrari driven by Doria, which was driven by last year's championship runner-up at the start of the race, Alan Valente. Now trying to get past the Porsche of Alex Schwarzer. This is for 9th place. Schwarzer, though, keeping him at bay for the time being as they go nose to tail into the right-hander at turn 19, third gear corner, picking up the acceleration, slow down to second gear for this pretty tight left-hander that leads you out of turn 10 and onto the back straight. The Ferrari looks the quicker of the two at the moment, but it's probably going to have to wait until the start of the next lap to try and find a way through. It's all over him under braking lap, but just has to sit in single file as they go through turns 11 and 12. You're right on board with him now. It's absolute best first sector of the race for Simon Connor Prim last time around, keeping the gap on the look at the gap between Wiebelhaus in 4th, Osten in 5th. It's actually come down a little bit more, less than a second and a half now, 1.458 seconds, but it's not coming down that rapidly.
Just over 3 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this race. Tom Callender looking very comfortable as Jean-Luc Deoria looking to the outsider. Schwarzer into turn 1. Can't make it stick here. Maybe a challenge into turn 3. But with less than 3 minutes remaining of this race, Callender now looking pretty solid, but he's still got to bring it home. We've seen a lot of cars with punctures today, so it's not all over yet. He's still got to get the end of this race done and dusted. At the moment, Alexander Schwarzer is feeling the heat. It's Jean-Luc Deoria in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari, the car similar to the one that won the DTM race earlier on today in the hands of Jack Aitken. So we know that car is quick around here, and Alexander Schwarzer just holding on for all that he can, having received those 2 penalties that's relegated him down the order. He took over from Alexander Fack at the moment in 9th place, but that is looking very vulnerable. A little over 2 minutes remaining now of this race.
Simon Connor Prim is the quickest driver on the track at the moment. It's just a personal best lap in the Powell Motorsport Lamborghini, 1:35.7. It's quicker even than the race leader. Trouble is they had that penalty, that extra pit stop, and he's back in 13th place as it stands. So into the final 2 minutes of the race. Good job here by Alex Schwarzer. It looked like he was going to have to relinquish that position, that 9th place to Doria on the previous lap. If anything, he's given himself a bit more breathing space. That's an Aston Martin pointing in the wrong direction, though, at the escape road at turn 1 at New Escape Road. Good job it's there, because otherwise he'd been stuck in the gravel. Now, has he got off, or has he just got an issue with the car? Because it doesn't look like he's going to attempt to rejoin. Let's have a look at the replay of the 35 Aston Martin. I think it's just going to pull off the circuit, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like maybe he's run out of brakes or something. I don't know what's going on there. Clearly not, all is not well in the number 35 car. Still, Tom Callender circulates in the number 1 car. He is well over 15 seconds to the good of Tim Zimmerman. We did mention Alexander Schwarzer. I'm going to mention him again in that 9th place, doing a great job holding off Jean-Luc Deoria. To remind you, he's the only Pro-Am driver in this race. He's a bronze-rated, FIA bronze-rated driver. So to hold off the likes of Jean-Luc Deoria and then Emil Frey Racing Ferrari takes a bit of doing. Now, this is a bit of an issue because they probably certainly won't want to keep the race going with a car side on at the end of the fastest point of the circuit. We've got the yellow flags waving. It'd be great if we can get this race to the end without any cautions. We're into the final 25 seconds. Once the leader crosses the line, there will be one more lap. So lots of furious wavings of yellow flags. Our leader's up at turn 4 at the moment, heading up to turn 5. So we've got about a lap and a half left of this race. Chandler Hull will be having a bit of a moment there, I should think, as he sees the cars racing towards him at over 200 kilometres an hour. Still, this battle continues. Jean-Luc Deoria has Alexander Schwarzer in his eye line. Time is running out to make a move past. Top job from Alexander Schwarzer, holding off the might of that Ferrari into turn 1. Looks as though, has the Chandler Hull car moved? Can't see it anywhere now. But this fight, brilliant stuff for 9th place.
Yeah, Doria, because that's one of his key overtaking opportunities, gone out the window now. So he finds another one at the inside on the way to the banking at turn 3. Oh, contact between him and Schwarzer, who's almost sent into the barrier on the exit to the corner, but the Porsche just about stays on the track. That was a hair-raising moment, though. The Ferrari is through, but not without contact, Brian.
God, that was exciting, wasn't it? Good job keeping them all together, but that is under investigation immediately by our race stewards. Right, here's Tom Callender out of turn 14, ready to start the final lap of the race. It has been an absolutely flawless performance. He and Elias Seppänen, who started this race on pole position, have another look here. So Schwarzer was up high. Jean-Luc Deoria giving him the pinch. The two cars getting together. Schwarzer did well to keep that out of the fence. There's a bit of debris that's fallen off as well. Having another look from a different angle here. You saw Jean-Luc Deoria goes to the inside. Schwarzer keeping out of the way, quite up high, then tries to get a run out of turn 3, and just a little bit of a clip. Was that the Porsche or part of the Ferrari? Certainly one of the cars flying off into the turn 3 banking. But this is what it would have looked like from the perspective of Schwarzer. This will be a proper brown alert moment for him. So up here he goes, and oof. Yeah, I think the bit that came off was from the Porsche, because the Ferrari looked intact there. And Jean-Luc Deoria, we got every angle going here. Top notch to our producers here. We had a camera at every possible angle we could have. Meanwhile, as the Schwarzer car continues, sans part of the bodywork. Our race leader, Tom Callender, is in the closing stages out of turn 12 and into turn 13 for the very last time today. The gold and white #1 Mercedes will go up onto the steep 18-degree banking, out onto the pit straight. He will see the checkered flag in front of him. It's a win for race 3 of the season from Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender for Landgraf Motorsport. An absolutely flawless performance. Second place is going to go to the number 63 car, Tim Zimmermann and Benjamin Highties for GRT Grasser Racing. A real dash for the line for everybody else coming out. So it is Zimmermann in the 63 car and Highties in second. In third, Mike David Ortmann just getting on. Fairly quiet race for him, but he's got a podium out of it along with Denis Bulatov. And then in fourth place, Finn Wiebelhaus and Janis Fitcher. The charging Max Osten in car 54, along with Leon Köhler, 5th place for FK Performance. Great job in the BMW. Then it's Salman Vega and David Schumacher in 6th place. A fairly quiet race from them as well. Then the Kapfinger twins in 7th place. That is Johannes and Michael. And then in 8th place, Max Rice, along with Kwanda Mokoeno. Good, solid job from them, a good haul of points. 9th place, Jean-Luc Deoria and Alan Valente. What a great battle that was, that went all the way down to the line. And in 10th place, he's been in the walls all race long, Alexander Schwarzer and Alex Fack rounding out the top 10. So entertaining stuff for the third race of the season for the ADAC GT Masters. We did it without the track getting too wet. Here is your confirmation, subject to final confirmation. It's Seppänen and Calendar ahead of Heitis and Zimmermann. Bulatov and Ortmann, they are the podium finishers. They're Janis Fischer, Finn Wiebelhaus, Leon Köhler, Max Osten, David Schumacher, and Salman Vega, the Kapfinger twins, Max Reis and Quanda Mokoena, then Alan Valente, Jean-Luc D'Oria, Alex Fact, Alexander Schwarzer. Then the Holzums came from the pit lane to finish 11th. Gregory de Cyborg and Eduardo Kozadeng in 12th. Jonas Greif and Simon Conor Prim had been in the wars a little bit, but 13th place ahead of Jonas Karklees. Never even mentioned his name. And Pablo Schum. Right, there's a car parked on the side, and that is Alexander Schwarzer. So he's made it to the end. I think whatever fell off the car may have been a little bit something crucial, because the car has come to a stop out on turn 4. Fortunately, he's crossed the finish line, so it's not a problem. Car 14 has had a penalty lap issued that is replaced by a 5-second time penalty for forcing another car, i.e. that one there, off the track. So car 14 with Jean-Luc D'Oria has had 5 seconds added to his time, which is equivalent to passing through the penalty box for that incident that we saw on the exit of turn 3. So into Parc Fermé, our race winner, Tom Calendar and Elias Seppänen. What a potent combination they are proving to be. Elias Seppänen, the driver who came from Formula 4, we saw him in ADAC Formula 4 Germany a few years ago now, Finnish driver, and Tom Calendar, one of the drivers coming through the ADAC Sports Academy. Joining him, and a mature and solid drive. Tim Zimmermann, who we've seen quite a few times over the years in GT3 and GT4, with Benjamin Heitis in that second place. And there's Dennis Bulatov congratulating Mike David Ortmann. And I think it's their first podium of the year. For the number 34 crew, they got a 9th and a 7th place. That'll feel like a bit of a win. You see Mike David Ortmann pretty jubilant there, along with Dennis Bulatov. So good, solid stuff, entertaining for the ADAC GT Masters. Of course, it all changes tomorrow because we get a second race, but the drivers who are doing the second stint today will do the qualifying tomorrow morning, and will do the first stint. The drivers who went first today will be in the second stint. Here is Elias Seppänen and Tom Calendar. Who can stop them in the ADAC GT Masters? Tim Zimmermann.
Pretty devastating, isn't it? 16 seconds. That's a huge margin of victory for them. 2 wins and a second now. Big 25-point lead in the championship. And Landgraf Motorsport pairing are going to take some stopping this young driver pairing. Cool as ice. And,
You'd believe it, would you? It looks like they've just climbed out of a sofa somewhere. I remind you, that 16 seconds was with 20 kilos extra on board, and that affects an awful lot. These cars, every thousandth counts, and 20 kilos is a lot of extra weight.
It is, yeah, particularly on a circuit which is undulating. You have to carry all that extra weight up and down these hills, but uphill in particular has a much bigger effect. And of course, it's more weight to carry out of the corners, to accelerate, but it's also a heavier car, so more wear and tear on the tyres, more wear and tear on the brakes, but they've made that look very comfortable indeed. Great victory for them. Max Osten in the BMW got to within 0.8 of a second in the end of Finn Wiebelhaus, so another few laps, another few minutes of the race, he might have been able to clamber up into 4th position potentially, but that's a great recovery, isn't it, from having missed qualifying completely for the FK Performance pairing of Max Osten and Leon Köhler to get up to 5th place. I think they'll be very happy with that, and it keeps them at least within touching distance, and tomorrow they get to qualify again and race again as well. So with that sort of pace, the BMW should be one to watch tomorrow.
Yes, they'll be very happy about that, and they'll have no success ballast that they'll be carrying, so that's good news as well. So, as our 3rd place drivers, Dennis Bulatov, Mike David Ortmann, going to the third step of the podium, the first and second placed in the championship of the ADAC GT4 Germany last year. Stepping up to the GT3, Mike David Ortman, who has been in GT Masters on and off over the years, is actually the most experienced driver in the field, which seems crazy. Then, as our second place, Tim Zimmerman and Benjamin Heites. One of them's missing, there you go. That's onto the second step of the podium. But headline stealers, what a dominant performance from Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender. Yet another top step of the podium for Elias Seppänen. That will be another win, his 6th win in ADAC GT Masters, the 2nd for Tom Callender. And a representative from Landgraf Motorsport onto the podium to accept a trophy for the team as well. Right, I think it's time for the national anthem. Oh, no, we're going to Alex Fatcup as well as the winner and Alex Schwartz as well as winners in the Pro-Am race. Last time we saw Alexander Schwartz, who was out somewhere near turn 10, so he's either had to sprint back or we're just going to have one of them, or in fact, maybe none of them on the podium. So Schwarzer, in fact, winning in the Pro-Am race. So they are clearly not going to be available for the podium, or are they? Schwarzer arrives out of breath. Maybe he's found a bike somewhere. Right, OK, let's have the national anthem. So the podium national anthem done. And I think Elias Seppänen has got an awful lot of trophies by now. The driver on the right-hand side on the top step of the podium, who is one of the defending champions in the ADAC GT Masters, Dr. Gert Ensner, from the ADAC, president of the ADAC sports section, presenting the winners' trophies. And then from Scheffler, Zoran Zinner, presenting second place. And the third place trophy being presented by Eric Vyers, Chief Sporting Officer of Circuit Zandvoort, who make us feel so welcome every time we come here. This wonderful classic circuit here in the Netherlands. And there's the team trophy being presented as well. So we'll have a brief moment for some photographs. And then it'll be time for the celebrations to start. So the crews, families, friends gathering on, looking up at the podium. The celebrations start, and we come back and do it all again tomorrow. But it's going to be earlier in the day. There's a bit of a schedule change tomorrow. It's going to be at 1:25 local time. It will be race 4 of the season for the ADAC GT Masters. Who can stop Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender? It'll be Tom Callender who will be qualifying the car tomorrow morning. And it'll be Elias Seppänen who will be doing the second stint in the driving seat. So, join us tomorrow for race 4 of the season. From myself, Brian Oliver, and Chris Hartley, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow here at Circuit Zandvoort for GT Masters Race 4, Part 2 of Round 2 of this 2024 season. We'll see you tomorrow. close racing. Wonderful stuff.